All right, so today we're going to dive deep into the life of Khalid ibn al-Walid.
Oh, yeah.
One of the most celebrated military figures in Islamic history.
Absolutely.
We got this lecture by Dr. Omar Suleiman, and just listening to this guy's story, I got to say, it is absolutely wild.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the sword of Allah here.
Yeah.
But the thing that is just so fascinating is that he starts out as like a sworn enemy of Islam.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is really, it's like one of those classic redemption arcs.
Yeah.
Like in a movie.
Exactly.
And to understand just how dramatic this transformation is,
Right.
we really need to take a step back and understand the world that he came from,
Yeah.
pre-Islamic Arabia.
Yeah, it's so easy to forget how different things were.
Absolutely.
Back
I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Tribal ties were everything.
Totally.
Your tribe was your family, your protection, your entire identity.
Right.
And Dr. Suleiman makes it clear that this rivalry between Khalid's tribe, Banu Maksum, and the Prophet Muhammad's PBUH tribe, Banu Hashim,
Okay.
it was intense.
So this wasn't just politics.
No.
This was deeply personal.
Exactly. Deeply personal.
Wow.
And then you add on top of that, Khalid's father, al-Walid.
Oh, yeah.
Not only was he the wealthiest man in Mecca,
Right.
he was also one of the Prophet's PBUH most vocal opponents.
Yeah, the lecture mentions that the Quran itself contains verses
Oh, wow.
criticizing al-Walid
Okay.
for rejecting Islam and for what's perceived as his arrogance.
Right.
I mean, considering his family background, it's almost surprising that Khalid ever embraced Islam.
It is really, I mean, it's one of the things that makes his story so compelling.
Totally.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Khalid's mother
Right.
actually had connections to several early Muslims,
Oh, wow.
including some very prominent figures.
Wait, so are we talking like family gatherings
Yeah.
where you've got some relatives praising the Prophet, PBUH,
Uh-huh.
and others like vehemently opposed?
Absolutely.
I would not want to be passing the dates around that table.
No kidding.
That's intense.
It must have been a confusing and challenging environment to grow up in,
Yeah.
especially for someone like Khalid, who was known for his strong convictions.
Speaking of challenging, you were telling me a story about Khalid's brother earlier,
Oh, yeah.
who was captured after the Battle of Badr.
Al-Walid ibn al-Walid.
Yeah.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
Khalid pays this hefty ransom to free him.
Right.
And what does al-Walid do?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He embraces Islam and
Yeah.
heads straight back to Medina.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine
oh, man.
those conversations that they must have had?
That ransom must felt like a bad investment at that point.
I mean, it really makes you wonder if that's what planted a seed of doubt in Khalid's mind.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this is his own brother,
Right.
choosing the Prophet, PBUH, and the Muslims
Yeah.
over their family and everything they stood for.
Right. And it's not like this was some random guy.
Yeah.
You know? Even before converting,
Yeah.
Khalid was renowned for his military skills.
Oh, yeah, from a young age.
Right. The lecturer talked about how from a young age, he was mastering all these combat techniques,
Absolutely.
developing this really strategic mind that would later make him so famous.
I mean, even as a young man, he was considered to be one of, if not the best,
Wow.
when it came to warfare.
Really. And we see that.
And you see it.
Brilliance on display
Yes.
in battles like Uhud,
Mm.
where his tactics actually dealt a significant blow to the Muslims.
Right.
And then there's the Battle of the Trench.
Yes, the Battle of the Trench.
Which you were telling me about earlier.
Oh, that's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Remember how the Muslims were basically besieged in Medina?
Right.
Khalid almost manages to break through their defenses
Ah,
using this combination of diversionary tactics and psychological warfare.
really?
It really highlights his strategic thinking, even when he's facing
Yeah.
a seemingly impossible situation.
It makes you wonder if he was this good fighting against the Muslims,
Yeah,
what could he have achieved fighting for them?
exactly. And that's something that we'll dive into next time.
Right.
But before we get there,
Yeah.
I think it's important to trace how Khalid's perspective on Islam started to shift.
Okay.
It wasn't a sudden change. It was more of a gradual evolution.
Right. The lecture talks about how he was this really keen observer,
Uh-huh.
and the Treaty of Hudaybiyah seems to have been like a key turning point.
Oh, absolutely. I remember that treaty was actually seen as a setback for the Muslims at the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But even in that moment, Khalid sees this discipline,
Yeah.
this unwavering faith
Right.
from the Muslims.
Right.
And it starts to, I think, chip away at
Yeah.
his assumptions.
And you mentioned something earlier
Yeah.
about Khalid beginning to see the Prophet, PBUH, as almost divinely protected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, after all, the
Yeah.
Prophet PBUH had survived numerous assassination attempts,
Right.
emerged victorious.
Right.
It had to make an impression,
It had to.
especially on someone like Khalid.
And then there's the dream.
Yes, the dream.
This is such a powerful image.
Uh-huh.
This idea of Khalid going from a barren land
Yeah.
to this lush, vibrant garden.
Right. And Dr. Suleiman explains that this wasn't just some random dream.
Right.
It was a symbolic representation of Khalid's own spiritual journey towards Islam.
Like his subconscious
Yeah.
was trying to tell him something.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got the seed of doubt is planted.
Yeah.
His respect for the prophet, PBUH, is growing.
Mm-hmm.
He's having these symbolic dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Does he just like walk up to the prophet, PBUH, and be like, hey, I'm in?
Well, not quite.
Okay.
From what I gather, he starts having these intense conversations with other Meccans
Okay.
about Islam.
So kind of like a testing the waters phase.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He wants to hear different perspectives.
Okay.
He wants to understand why some people are so resistant to this message, while others are embracing it wholeheartedly.
Right. Does the lecture give any examples of these conversations?
Yeah, there are two that really stand out.
Okay.
His interactions with Safwan ibn Umayyah
Okay.
and Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl.
Okay.
Safwan was more open.
Mm-hmm.
But Ikrimah, who had personal reasons for opposing the Prophet, PBUH,
Well,
was staunchly against
Right.
the idea of converting. And it shows just how complex the social and political landscape was at the time.
so we have Khalid. He's engaging in these deep theological and philosophical debates.
Yeah.
His internal struggle is becoming more and more apparent.
Mm-hmm.
All signs are pointing towards a major life change.
Absolutely.
What happens next?
Well, that is where we'll pick up in
Okay.
part 2 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, everybody, because the sword of Allah is about to be unsheathed.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back. So last time we left off with Khalid wrestling with some pretty big questions about Islam.
Right, the tension was building.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, Khalid makes a decision that will forever alter the course of his life.
Okay.
He embraces Islam.
Wow, talk about a life-changing moment.
Absolutely.
I mean, imagine the courage it must have taken
Oh, yeah.
to make that choice, knowing how his own tribe,
Right.
his own family would react.
It's a real testament to his conviction.
Yeah, totally. And remember how we were talking about his brother, al-Walid, converting earlier?
Oh, yes.
Well, get this.
Okay.
They actually head to Medina together,
Oh, wow.
along with another recent convert,
Okay.
Uthman ibn Talha.
So the brothers who were once on opposing sides
Yeah.
are now united.
Talk about a family reunion.
Right. And here's the amazing part.
Go.
When they arrive in Medina, the Prophet, PBUH, welcomes them with open arms.
Oh, wow.
No judgment.
Right.
No resentment for their past. Just
No.
pure compassion and acceptance.
It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The second best time is now.
Right.
It's never too late to change. To seek forgiveness. To start a new chapter.
Absolutely. And Khalid doesn't waste any time improving his dedication to his new faith.
Oh, really?
Remember that Battle of Mu'tah you were asking about?
Yeah.
It happens just weeks
Wow.
after his conversion.
So soon.
And it's where he truly earns that title, Sword of Allah.
Okay, remind me about Mu'tah. I remember you saying that the Muslims were vastly outnumbered.
Oh, yeah, they were facing the Byzantine army,
Right.
which, at that time
Yeah.
was essentially the Eastern Roman Empire,
Right.
a massive force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, so like a David versus Goliath kind of situation.
Pretty much. And initially,
Yeah.
the Muslims suffer some pretty heavy losses.
Okay.
3 of their commanders are actually killed in quick succession.
Wow.
The situation is looking really bleak.
And this is where Khalid steps in.
Exactly. He takes command.
Wow.
And using this amazing combination of brilliant tactics and sheer determination,
Right.
he manages to not only hold off the Byzantines, but to inflict heavy losses on them, forcing them to retreat.
I remember reading in one of the source materials that he broke 9 swords
Yeah.
during this battle.
9 swords.
I mean,
It's incredible.
was that common back then, or was he just an absolute beast?
And it really captures the intensity of the fight, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, 9 swords.
It's hard to imagine.
It suggests a level of ferocity and endurance.
Right.
It's just amazing.
It's no wonder that the Prophet, PBUH, bestowed upon him that title, Sword of Allah, after this victory.
Right.
What a story.
From enemy of Islam to its most celebrated warrior
Yeah.
in just a few short months.
Incredible. Okay, so we've established that Khalid was this brilliant military mind.
Yeah.
But what kind of tactics made him so successful?
Okay. Well,
Can you give us like a specific example?
one of his most famous tactics was called the mobile guard.
Mobile guard?
Yeah, imagine a battlefield where things are constantly in flux.
Right.
What Khalid would do was create this highly mobile reserve force
Okay.
that he could then quickly deploy
Right.
to reinforce weak points.
So it's like having a SWAT team ready to go
Exactly.
wherever needed.
Precisely. And this tactic was so effective.
Okay.
It proved to be incredibly effective in battles like Yarmouk.
Yarmouk. Oh, right. That was against the Byzantines.
That's right.
Okay. Remind me what happened there.
All right, so picture this.
Yeah.
The Muslim army is outnumbered,
Right.
facing this highly disciplined Byzantine force. But Khalid, understanding the terrain,
Okay.
chooses a battlefield that limits
I see.
the Byzantines' numerical advantage.
So he's using the environment itself to kind of even the odds.
Exactly. He's thinking strategically.
Right.
And it's not just about positioning.
Yeah.
You know, the Byzantines relied heavily on these cavalry charges.
Okay.
Well, Khalid developed specific counter strategies to disrupt those charges.
So it's not just strength against strength.
Yeah.
It's about outsmarting your
Yeah.
opponent.
It's like playing chess, not checkers.
Exactly.
And then he brings in the mobile guard,
Right.
this flexible force that allows him to adapt to
Right.
keep the enemy off balance.
No wonder he was basically undefeated.
It's like he was always one step ahead.
Yeah, totally.
And, you know, this tactical brilliance,
Yeah.
it wasn't limited to his campaigns against the Byzantines.
Right.
He also used very similar strategies
Okay.
against the Persians.
Right, the Persians. Right.
Remember the Battle of Walaja,
Yeah, vaguely.
where he uses a feigned retreat
Oh, wow.
to lure the Persians into a trap?
That's genius.
That's classic Khalid.
It reminds me of that scene in 300
Oh, yeah.
where the Spartans used the narrow mountain pass
Right.
to their advantage.
And that feigned retreat,
Yeah.
that's pure psychological warfare.
Right.
It plays on the enemy's expectation.
Makes them overconfident.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is what makes Khalid so fascinating.
It really is.
It's the strategic thinking, the tactical innovation, this understanding of the psychology of warfare.
Absolutely. And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
Despite his reputation as this fierce warrior,
Yeah.
there are numerous accounts
Oh.
of him treating his defeated enemies
Right.
with respect and compassion,
Right.
often giving them the choice to convert to Islam, but without coercion.
So not just a conqueror, but a leader who aims to inspire,
Exactly.
not instill fear.
It speaks volumes about his character,
Yeah.
his understanding of the higher principles of Islam,
Right.
his belief in earning respect, not demanding it through force.
Okay, so Khalid, he's racking up victories. His reputation is just growing and growing. He's become this symbol of Muslim strength and unity.
Right.
But it can't all be smooth sailing.
You're right.
I mean, history is rarely that simple.
It's true. Even someone as accomplished as Khalid faced challenges and setbacks.
Okay, I'm curious.
And one of the most significant ones involved Caliph Umar,
Khalif Umar.
who succeeded the Prophet, PBUH, as the leader of the Muslims.
And what happened? Did they clash?
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that.
Okay,
Umar was known for his wisdom
right.
and his commitment to justice.
Okay.
And while he greatly admired Khalid's military prowess,
Yeah.
he also became concerned about certain aspects of his leadership.
Like what?
Well, there were concerns about Khalid's growing popularity and influence.
Okay,
Some people were worried that he was becoming too powerful,
I see.
that his success might overshadow the importance of the caliph's authority.
So more of a political issue.
It seems that way from the sources we have.
Okay, and what's remarkable is how Khalid reacts to this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, did he lash out? Did he challenge Umar's decision?
Not at all.
Really?
He accepts the caliph's decision with incredible humility and grace,
Wow.
putting the needs of the Muslim community above his own personal ambitions.
Imagine being that good
I know.
at the top of your game
Right.
and accepting a demotion without complaint.
It speaks to his loyalty to Islam, his understanding that leadership isn't about personal glory.
Right.
It's about serving a greater cause.
And despite being removed from his position as commander,
Yeah.
he still continued to serve Islam,
He did.
offering his expertise and experience
That's right.
wherever needed.
So he went from leading armies to basically becoming a regular soldier again.
Wow, what a story. That's incredible.
It really is a testament to his humility and his dedication.
This might be a good place to kind of pause and pick up next time.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground from his conversion to his incredible victories.
Right.
Even some of these political complexities that he had to navigate.
Absolutely.
But before we go, I got to ask.
Yeah.
How does this legendary warrior story end?
Okay.
Does he die in battle, like a hero's death?
Well, that's what you might expect, right?
Yeah.
But Khalid's story takes another unexpected turn.
Okay.
He actually dies peacefully in his bed in Homs, Syria, in the year 642.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
A peaceful end for the sword of Allah?
It's surprising, isn't it?
It is.
But I think there's a certain poetry to it.
Yeah.
After a lifetime of conquest and battles,
Yeah.
he finds peace in the end.
Makes you wonder what his final thoughts were.
Well, according to Dr. Suleiman, his last words were,
Okay.
"I've sought death in every battlefield, but it has come to me in my bed.
Wow.
Alas, the eyes of Khalid are closing."
Wow. There's a real kind of melancholy to that.
Yeah.
A sense of longing
Yeah.
for a warrior's death.
Right.
But at the same time, it kind of reflects his acceptance of his fate
Uh-huh.
and his unwavering faith.
Absolutely. And I think that's a perfect segue into our next discussion.
Okay.
What does Khalid's legacy mean for us today? What can we, living in the 21st century,
Yeah.
learn from this extraordinary life?
Stay tuned, everybody, because in part 3, we're going to unpack the enduring lessons of Khalid ibn al-Walid and explore what his story means for all of us. So welcome back to our deep dive into the life of Khalid ibn al-Walid. We've covered his incredible journey from enemy to champion, his military genius, his character. But here's the big question. Why should we, in the 21st century, care about a warrior from 7th century Arabia?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, at first glance, it might seem like Khalid's world is a million miles away from our own.
Right.
But I think what's so fascinating about his story is that it offers these timeless lessons that resonate no matter what your background is, what your beliefs are.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. What kind of timeless lessons are we talking about?
Well, think about Khalid's transformation. I mean, here's a guy who was raised to oppose Islam, who literally fought against the Muslims, and yet he ends up becoming their most celebrated champion.
Right.
That right there tells you change is possible, even when it seems like the odds are stacked against you.
Like the ultimate comeback story.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, what are those things in our own lives that we're told are impossible to change?
Exactly.
You know, maybe it's a bad habit or a relationship pattern,
Right.
a limiting belief.
Yeah.
I mean, Khalid's story is like a giant permission slip to evolve.
It is. It's like he's saying, hey, look, I did it.
Yeah.
You can do it too.
Right. And it's not just about changing our minds.
No.
It's about having the courage to act on those changes.
Absolutely.
To follow our conscience, even when it means breaking from our past or challenging social expectations.
Right. And think about those tribal dynamics we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for Khalid choosing to embrace Islam, that would have been like betraying everything his family and his tribe stood for.
It took some serious guts.
It did. It really highlights the importance of individual conviction.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't swayed by social pressure. He wasn't swayed by political maneuvering.
Right.
He made a choice based on what he believed to be true, and he stood by it even when it was difficult.
Absolutely. And what about the element of forgiveness?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the prophet, PBUH, welcoming Khalid, someone who had literally fought against him with open arms. I mean,
that's amazing.
That powerful stuff.
It really speaks to the transformative power of forgiveness on an individual and societal level. You know, it reminds us that holding on to anger and resentment ultimately only hurts us in the end.
Especially today, where everybody's so quick to judge.
Yes.
So quick to condemn.
Absolutely.
It's like Khalid's story is a reminder that it's never too late to extend a hand of friendship and understanding.
Yeah.
Even to those we might consider enemies.
It's a powerful message of reconciliation.
It is.
One that I think we could all benefit from right now.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got transformation, conviction, forgiveness.
Yeah.
But what about his military leadership?
Yeah.
This guy was practically undefeated.
Right.
What are some of those lessons that we can apply to, say, our careers or personal challenges?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that it's not just about winning battles.
Okay.
It's about the mindset that made him so successful.
Right.
You know, he was always analyzing the situation, adapting his tactics, thinking several steps ahead of his opponents.
It's like that famous quote, "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle."
Exactly.
And Khalid seemed to understand that real success comes from being prepared, from being strategic, adaptable,
Absolutely. And think about that mobile guard tactic.
Oh, yeah.
Having a flexible, adaptable resource that you can deploy to address these unexpected challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pure gold.
In any field.
Whether you're leading a team, running a business, or just trying to navigate the ups and downs of life.
So it's about thinking strategically, being resourceful, always having a plan B.
Exactly. And his understanding of psychology is fascinating, too.
Right.
Remember that feigned retreat at the Battle of Wallajah? It shows he wasn't just a military strategist. He was also a master of persuasion. He understood how to influence people's perceptions, their emotions.
What are those battlefields in our lives where that kind of strategic thinking is needed?
Exactly.
You know, a tough negotiation at work, a challenging relationship. Even those internal battles that we fight with our own doubts and fears.
And the thing is, Khalid didn't achieve all of this on his own. He was part of a community. A team working towards a shared goal.
It reminds us that we can achieve so much more when we work together.
Absolutely.
Towards something bigger than ourselves.
And then there's his reaction to being removed from command by Caliph Umar.
Well,
talk about a test of character.
I mean, most people would have been resentful.
Oh, yeah.
Bitter.
Yeah.
But Khalid accepted it.
He did. And he continued to serve.
Yeah. And that right there, that's the mark of true leadership.
It's not about ego. It's not about personal gain. It's about serving a cause greater than yourself.
Yeah. And even though his role changed, his commitment didn't
waver at all.
He remained dedicated to the Muslim community, offering his expertise, his experience.
Wherever it was needed.
Imagine being that good at what you do and being willing to step back and serve in a different capacity.
Yeah. It makes you think about our own ambitions.
It does.
Our own motivations. Are we driven by ego, or are we truly committed to something larger than ourselves?
Big questions.
Big questions. And Khalid's story reminds us that even the most celebrated figures face setbacks and challenges. It's how we respond to those challenges that truly defines us.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into the life of Khalid ibn al-Walid, what stands out to you as the most enduring aspect of his legacy?
I think for me, it's this idea that even amidst all the conflict and uncertainty, there's always room for transformation, for growth, for reconciliation. You know, his life wasn't a straight line. It was full of twists and turns. But he found his purpose. And he made a lasting impact on the world.
Absolutely. And his story really is a testament to the power of human potential.
It is.
It reminds us that we're all capable of extraordinary things, even if we start out as unlikely heroes.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the life of Khalid ibn al-Walid.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We hope you found this journey as fascinating as we did. And remember, Khalid's story shows us that even warriors can find peace, that change is always possible, and that dedication to a cause greater than ourselves can fuel some truly incredible achievements.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving to make your own mark on the world.